Okay. It's recording. Hi there. How are you doing today?
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. You were referred in by your family physician, that's correct?
Yeah.
Because you are going through some personal problems in your own life and at work.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about that today. But first, before we do go forward, I want to let you know that there is something called confidentiality. Everything that is said here in this room remains between me and you. Okay, so you don't have to be worried about any information getting out to your parents or to your doctor,
Yeah.
unless there is imminent risk to children or to the elderly, any suspected abuse that goes on there. If there's imminent risk to self-harm to yourself, and if any of these documents get subpoenaed to court. So I was just wondering where you stand. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, like, as long as like none of those things happen, then like it's kind of confidential between you and me.
Right,
Okay,
right.
that makes sense.
So you're okay with going forward with this then?
For sure.
I also did want to mention that just so I can give you the best help I can and keep tabs of everything, I do make notes. So I have my pen and my paper here. Sometimes I take notes on the computer. I was just wondering what you would feel more comfortable with me doing.
Either or is fine.
Perfect. So I'll take notes on my pen and paper.
Perfect.
So first, I am interested in getting to know a little bit about you. So how about you just let me know who Victoria is?
For sure, yeah. So Victoria is, I guess, basically currently I'm working at a restaurant. It's not necessarily where I want to be for the rest of my life. But I graduated with a degree in communications and I don't really have a job in that field yet. I'm kind of waiting to see what's out there for me and kind of looking, but currently still kind of working at that restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of like education wise and job wise where I'm at in terms of like my concerns there. It's just kind of like concerning that I'm still working at this restaurant that I've been working at for like years going through school, and now I have this degree, I have the credentials, but I'm not really able to go further. I'm not really able to be in that career path that I'm looking for.
I got you. So you do have a degree in communications. You're just having trouble finding a job in the field.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, what are some of the main factors you feel that are inhibiting your ability to get a job in communications?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it has to do a little bit with like my own experience, because like having had to work at the restaurant throughout like school to be able to pay for it, I wasn't really able to get like the internships or the opportunities or the co-ops that my peers were able to. And I think in doing that, I don't know, I guess I didn't really get to the same level that maybe other people that are trying for the jobs that I'm trying for as well are at. So I feel like I'm kind of at a disadvantage there.
Okay. So from what I'm getting, from what you just told me, you feel like you're at a disadvantage in comparison to other people.
Yeah.
And it's putting some stress on you.
Yeah.
And you kind of might have feel a little bit behind from some of your peers, which is definitely not a good feeling to have. So I really understand where you're coming from with that. Your physician did mention that you still live with your parents at home, correct?
Yeah.
I just wanted to know how that makes you feel. Do you enjoy being at home, or what are some of the feelings around that?
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of feeling, and this kind of relates to what I was talking about, of feeling stuck, where it's like I feel like I'm still back in like what I was in like elementary or high school, but it's like with the housing market as it is and like the rental market as it is, like it's just not feasible for me to move out right now. But then it's like I also want that independence. I want like my own space, and I have like a pretty good relationship with my parents and my family. I mean, my little sister just moved out, so like I love that for her, but it kind of makes me jealous, and again like feeling like I'm kind of stuck and like not going on the path that I kind of wish I was.
Okay. So you live with your parents. So there are some advantages to that because like you said, the market is absolutely insane right now. And you're right, it's unattainable for many people. But there seems to be some feelings of jealousy there, like you had just mentioned. So you brought up your sister. How's your relationship with your sister?
It's really good. Yeah, we're really, really close. And I think that maybe there's also like some fear of how that relationship will change just based on how now that she's moved out, now I'm like, oh, like, am I going to be missing this aspect of my life, or not aspect of my life, but this relationship of my life, because we're used to being able to just like into each other's rooms and like have conversations and like at meals and stuff like that. But now that she's moved out, I feel like I'm kind of missing that piece there.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify, get some clarification on that. You feel like the relationship might be changing because your sister moved out, is that
Yeah,
correct?
exactly.
Can you give me some more clarification on that? How do you feel like the relationship with her will change because she moved out?
Yeah, I think that it'll be like mostly along the lines of just like distance. Like I think that like it's like that kind of idea of like, oh, like if you're in close proximity to people, it's easier to build a relationship. So whether that's like at school, like when you're a kid with like your friends that you make when you're a kid, I think that kind of mirrors this situation where it's like, I think we definitely are, like we do have a solid relationship, but I think it's like that has been built upon us being so close in proximity to each other.
Okay, I got you. So that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
You make a really good point about, just naturally when you are around people, you do have a tendency to be closer.
Exactly.
And so it puts a strain on relationships and people move away. So you make a really good point about that. So yeah, I'm getting that you have some sense of strained relationships here. But you do live with your parents, so I am interested in knowing how your relationship with your parents are.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, I think that it just being like privileged enough to be even at home is a real good indicator. Like I know not everybody has that relationship where that wouldn't be possible for them. So I am grateful for that. But then I think that there's definitely like I guess like some tension, I guess, that where it's like, I want to be an adult, I want to be independent, I want to be my own person, but then my parents almost still view me as like this like child of theirs, which I am, but I'm not like a child anymore. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I want to be my own person, I want to go out and do my own thing, but it's like they still feel like they have to parent me, where it's like, I feel like the dynamic that it is currently is like a parent-child, where I feel like it should be more like an adult-adult relationship, if that makes sense.
Okay. Wow, it sounds like there are a lot of feelings of frustration there, and reasonably so. You want to be treated like an adult, you want to feel like an adult, but it's hard when you're kind of forced to be in a place where it's your childhood home.
Exactly.
So is it that you have feelings that you're kind of stuck in a place that doesn't allow you to grow? Is that what I'm getting here?
Maybe, and maybe that could even be like a reason for why like my career is kind of where it is now, because I feel like it's almost being hindered by these kind of like four walls and hindered by like the spot that I'm in like physically, that it's almost like converting that into like also like my mental space.
I got you. Okay, that's a lot, Victoria, and I'm really happy that you're sharing this with me right now. Have you talked to anybody else about these feelings?
Not really. I mean, I guess like I'm saying, I have a pretty good relationship with my sister, so I've kind of shared some things with them. I guess I also do talk to like my boyfriend about it, but recently he moved down to the States to like pursue a job opportunity there. And while obviously I want what's best for him, I just don't know if like that's going to be able to, I guess I also have concerns about that relationship as well, where it's like there's the unknown, right? Of like, how are we going to handle long distance? Like, are we still going to be able to keep in contact? Like, where will this relationship go? So I have shared concerns with him about just like life in general, but then that also brings into the like factor, like, I don't know how that's going to turn out either.
Okay, so there seems to be feelings of uncertainty here pertaining to your relationship. How long have you guys been together?
We've been together like 2.5 years.
Okay, so you guys have been together for quite a while. So yeah, from what I'm getting, you have been together with him for 2.5 years. You do seem to have a good relationship with him for the most part. And he has, it's a long distance situation is what I'm getting. So that also has put strain on, how you guys communicate with each other. And okay, so is this something that you talked to him about?
I don't know. He wasn't really like super receptive to the conversation. He kind of like shut down sometimes. So I feel like we have had like that conversation, and it was kind of just like, okay, we'll see how it goes. Was basically like the end result of that was just like, okay, like, well, like we're gonna give it a shot, and we're both gonna put it as much as we can and give it our all. But like that was kind of like the extent of the conversation.
Okay, so you just mentioned that he seems non-receptive, and sometimes he shuts down when you bring up these issues. So just out of curiosity, what have been some of the previous strategies that you have approach the situation and talk to him about it? Like, what are some of the things that you mentioned to him?
Yeah, so I guess like in the past, like where there's been like kind of like those big conversations. So like, whether it's like a big fight or like whether it's like, a disagreement of opinions, I feel like we've been able to kind of handle that just by like taking a break and like coming back to the conversation afterwards. So we can kind of, if it gets too heated or if it gets too intense, just take a break and then come back to it like the next day or in a couple hours. The thing with this conversation though was like, there is really like no going back to it because it's just kind of like it is what it is now. Like there's not really, I guess like since now like he's down in the States, there's no more to really have of the conversation. So I guess I struggle with how to like bring it back up.
Okay. That is a lot, Victoria, and that must be a lot of pressure on you and a lot to go
Yeah.
through in general. It sounds like you are going through a pretty difficult time.
Mhm.
And you have tried things like talking to your sister and talking to your
Mhm.
parents to try and make some sense of everything that's going on.
Mhm.
Now you did mention that whenever you guys have a big fight, if
Mhm.
it gets too heated and intense,
Mhm.
what does a fight look like for you guys, a normal fight?
Yeah, I guess it's just like, I mean, it's more just like, oh, like we're getting, just like maybe there's a little bit of like, intensity in the conversation. Maybe there's like, I wouldn't say that there's like yelling. I think it's just more like there's intensity there where you go both are feeling very passionate about your own sides. And it's like there's that intensity. It's not like a physical thing or anything like that, or like feeling threatened. It's like nothing like that. But it's just like that there's, as with everyone, I think that there's passion about certain topics. So if those certain topics are gonna get handled or broached, then it's like, okay, like this is something that we maybe need to take a break on so we can kind of be less emotional about it.
Got you. So there's no physical abuse going on
No,
here. Okay.
no, nothing like that.
Okay. So then let's just kind of go back to the non-receptiveness from your boyfriend.
Mhm.
So when you bring up these your feelings to him,
Mhm.
you said he's non-receptive. How does that make you feel as his girlfriend that he's not being receptive to your feelings and your thoughts about all the issues that are going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes you feel like invalidated to a certain degree. It makes me feel like he's not like there, he's not hearing me, he's not, he's just not being like there as like maybe what my ideal person would be. Like he's wonderful, but like this is like definitely a point of contention in like the communication of the relationship where he's just like not able to communicate feelings very well. So then that can create boundaries, or not even boundaries, but like issues in our relationship that kind of stem from that.
Okay. Okay, so you guys, like normal relationships, do get in your disagreements,
Mhm.
and you said there was no physical element of it,
No.
which is good.
Mhm.
But it's just the him not being receptive that makes you kind of feel invalidated, and that's not a good feeling to have in a relationship regardless, right?
Mhm.
Have you mentioned to him that, you wish that he'd be more receptive to your issues, and how has he kind of responded to that?
Yeah, well, I guess that kind of is on me because I feel like I haven't really brought that up to him. I feel like I've just kind of like accepted that as kind of like the status quo in our relationship and not necessarily really like probed the conversation just because I don't really know how to. Like I just
Yeah.
don't really know how to bring that up in a way that like would make him understand where I'm coming from. So I guess I haven't brought it up.
So you haven't had that conversation with him yet?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so do you think that's something that you are willing to do?
I think so. I think it just might need some like guidelines, I guess, or like kind of potential ways to broach that topic because I feel like I haven't been able to yet. So I feel like it'd be hard to really figure it out on my own.
Totally got you. It's not an easy step to take, and
Mhm.
it's kind of these little conflicts that happen in relationships. They're
Mhm.
not easy to approach,
Mhm.
and being in relationships are hard, and I'm
Mhm.
sure you understand that as well.
Mhm.
So I really commend you for wanting to take that step
Thank you.
and talking to him and having these important conversations.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is bringing up my curiosity of how his relationship is with your sister and with your parents, because you're really close with them. So
Mhm.
can you describe to me how their relationship is?
Yeah, so like he gets along with the family really well. So
Okay.
he's, very, much like ready to like, help my dad with something or like to like, talk with my brother about something. So like when it's like a family dinner or like a holiday dinner, like he definitely meshes well with my family and with my friends as well. Like I feel like he's very easily kind of like became a part of like my friend circle as well. So he definitely fits very well into my life in that sense.
That's really good. That's really good. And it definitely helps a lot when your partner gets along with your family. And I
Definitely.
understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of just tracing back, you are feeling a little bit stuck in the home situation. You are close with your sister and have had this conversation with her before, but you are feeling like a little bit behind because your sister is younger than you and she's out already, right? You are close with your parents, but you also feel like there's not a lot of space to grow in
Yeah.
the household, which is giving you a lot of feelings of anxiety and distress. And I totally understand that. So we just quickly touched on your partner and everything seems to be okay in that aspect. So a question I did want to ask you though is, what are some approaches that you have taken, if any, to kind of get out of the situation you're in? Because you said that you do feel stuck at home. What are some of the ways that you kind of tried to escape that in the past?
Yeah, so I guess it's like finding opportunities to be outside of the home is a big one. So whether that's like joining a club at school when I was in school, or whether that's like, hanging out with friends or, hanging out with my boyfriend at his house, like I think there's opportunities there for me to kind of exit my home setting and kind of spend my time elsewhere, which I think does help. I think that if I were like confined to my home 24/7, then that would not be good for anyone.
I totally get you there, yeah.
So I think that has definitely helped me there, is just kind of being able to spend my time in different settings and situations.
Of course, of course. So it sounds like you are getting out and you are doing some of the hobbies that you do enjoy. So that's amazing, right? That's very important, like you said. But there is still the element that you aren't feeling like you're reaching your full potential, right? Because you do have a degree and you worked hard for that degree and you feel like it's not being recognized in the real world. So let's take a break here. I'll edit this out.
Okay, yeah.
I was just wondering how we're gonna bring the cancer diagnosis.
Maybe
What should I ask?
maybe like you mentioned like the depression, like is there anything else?
Did you already mention that like I'm depressed already? I'll circle back to that.
Okay, circle back to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Victoria, so I am getting to know you pretty well over this session. I want to circle back to you bringing up anxiety about being at home. And I was wondering if there was any other feelings that you are presenting being kind of in a stagnant situation, because I know it's very hard.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that the anxiety, like as everything like that we've talked about as well. But I guess I haven't mentioned it, but I did have a cancer diagnosis a couple of years ago. I'm in remission right now, but I think that there's that kind of underlying anxiety and even like bits of just depression of like thinking back to like that time and what if that time were to happen again, because that was a very tough time for me to go through for sure, and still currently is, just haven't been in remission.
Okay, so I just want to congratulate you for being in remission and for going through this incredibly, I can't even imagine how difficult of a time it is for you. So I really commend you for that. But yeah, in terms of you being in remission and having all this underlying anxiety and, as you just mentioned, depression, how has this affected your day-to-day life? No?
Yeah, I mean, like with the depression piece, it can be sometimes hard. And like I mentioned, like my peers maybe had the energy and the ability to go like pursue these other like, volunteer opportunities or internships and stuff like that in the communications field. But just with everything that happened in my life, that's like my mental health and depression and anxiety, it just made it hard, it made it hard to really find like the will to get out there and do these things that I know I needed to do. Which I didn't necessarily like, I guess, realize at the time that it would have this impact on me that's happening now. But at the time I was just trying to get by, I was just trying to do what I had to do, get my degree, and just kind of do the best that I could do in the circumstances that I had.
I totally get you. And you kind of had some cards stacked against you. You might have not had it as easy as other students because you were dealing with so much at home, including your cancer diagnosis. So honestly, it takes an incredibly strong person to even still go to school knowing that they have a diagnosis or just really doing any of the day-to-day activities that people do, right? So honestly, good on you, girl, because
Thank you.
it takes a lot, okay?
Yeah.
So you said that you have been dealing with depression. I just wanted to clarify that. Is that an actual diagnosis that from your physician?
Yeah.
Okay, and what are some things that you have done?
Yeah, so he put me on some meds. They worked in varying degrees, and we kind of cycled through a few, and I've yet to find one that I feel like actually does the job. But I do try to like do other things that are like kind of trying to help when I can manage them. So like whether that's like, you know, exercise or like seeing friends, like stuff like that, that I know like will make me feel better, or at least temporarily. I try to do that as well. And just like making sure that I kind of keep an eye on it. Like I know that, you know, it's kind of like a constant battle, but I think that just keeping an eye on like knowing when like, okay, like things are getting to a very dark place, like now is maybe to kind of like reach out my hand and like call for help. So I do try to keep it kind of like a monitor of it, just to make sure that things are okay, or manageable rather.
Manageable, exactly. And calling out for help is probably the most hardest step in the entirety of getting help, right? Realizing that there is a problem and that you need help is extremely courageous. So you're on the right path.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's what we're here for, is I'm here to help you. So you did mention that you were on some medication that was prescribed to you by your doctor, and you said that it really didn't work for you, right?
Yeah, they just had like bad side effects that I feel like weren't worth like the benefit that they were giving me.
So it was outweighing. Sorry, the negatives were outweighing the benefit. Okay,
exactly.
I got you. So are you still, you're not taking them anymore from what I understand?
We've kind of done like a couple rounds, and right now I'm just kind of at like a break period where I don't really want to try to dabble in or fix or try to like deal with that right now.
I got you. So what are some ways that you've been dealing with your depression diagnosis other than medication?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's like like I mentioned, like the exercise stuff and like seeing friends has been really helpful. I think that also like just being open to like other helps that like such as like coming here or like things like that, where it's like, okay, like maybe this is something that could help. I guess also like there was a support group for like people that like had cancer, and then like also one for like people in remission. So I find like that's been really helpful to be able to kind of connect with other people and make me feel like less alone, and make me feel like I'm not just in this by myself. Like there's other people that are going through this as well.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, you are keeping in touch with your peers and your family and going to exercise, which is awesome. How do your parents, how have they dealt with the whole cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, my parents were a tough one because I feel like it was almost like I don't know, it's almost like I didn't want to burden them with my burdens, if that makes sense, where it's like I felt bad to have them go through having a kid with cancer. Not that I'm a kid, but like third child. But it was kind of tough because then I was almost feeling like I was obviously feeling like, you know, bad and negative feelings for my situation, but then it was almost like the double time, because then I was feeling, oh my God, like that must be so hard for my parents, that must be so hard for my sister, that must be so hard for the people in my family that are watching me go through this. So it was hard to like watch them struggle and watch them be in pain because I was in pain.
Okay, that is a lot. And you know, you're already going through an incredibly difficult time with your diagnosis, but you're also thinking about how are you affecting your family? How is that affecting your sister, your mom, your dad? That's just so much. And like you had mentioned, it hasn't been easy on anybody, but it is definitely the most hardest on you. And it's just the fact that you are kind of empathically attuning to the feelings of your parents is just, it shows your character, right? So you said that your parents are a tough one. Do you want to talk some more about that? Like some of their day-to-day attitudes, or you know?
Yeah, so I guess like in terms of like the cancer diagnosis, there was obviously like very much like a stressful time, and very much kind of like I think it went beyond like the scope of their ability to cope, I guess, which could kind of manifest into it. Like, it wasn't anything like super bad, but it was just like there was a heightened stress in like the household. And I think like living together also like, of course, just like increase that, because then like you're dealing with that 24/7. So whether that's like the doctor visits or the chemo, and it's just like it's like the constant reminder of like what's happening in your child's life. So there was that, and it was just like, I guess like now that I'm in remission, like things are obviously like that is a huge weight and like an amazing thing, but it's still like I feel like there's, and maybe this is where some of like the protectiveness from them comes in, is like they saw me in that situation, and then it was like, oh, like what if something bad, whether that's like, you know, cancer, whether that's like, oh, like getting kidnapped off the street, or like just like it kind of increased their worry for me. And then I think that kind of connects to like that feeling of like feeling trapped, because like there's so much, and I know that they come from a good place, but it's hard to really like be able to feel that and empathize with that when I'm in the moment. I'm just like, no, like I just want my own space. Like I just want to be my own person. I just want to like be independent, be my own thing. I want my own space. And it's hard when they're kind of like still trying to parent me. And like I mentioned earlier, where it was like they still see it as like a parent-child relationship, whereas I was wishing it'd be more of like an adult kind of relationship.
Yeah. I totally get you. And yeah, you're saying that your parents are kind of still coddling you and treating you like a child when you want to be treated like an adult, because you are an adult, right?
Exactly.
So from what I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think that, you know, your illness and your diagnosis kind of changed the way they perceived you and treated you? Like, how did it look before your diagnosis? Is what I want.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think it did. I think like fundamentally it kind of scared them into almost like, I forget the word for it, but it's like when you regressing, like we're like regressed back to like how we were when we were like a family of like, you know, they were the parents when I was like 10 or something. Like I think that cancer diagnosis kind of like regressed them back into that kind of like parenting stage, I suppose. And well, I know that they mean well, and like I think that that's, you know, a natural or like an average maybe reaction. It kind of has stayed beyond that, and like obviously I appreciate like all the help that they've done, like for me, like whether that was like, you know, like cooking meals or like, you know, letting me stay at their house, like all these things like I appreciate. But I think it's kind of, now that we're kind of in this new stage of like me like wanting to kind of launch myself into like my own independence and my own life, it's just become kind of like suffocating.
Okay, so you feel suffocated by a lot of these things that are going on. And reasonably so, right? You know, you want to be treated like an adult, but you feel like because of your diagnosis that you got, kind of the attitude with your parents shifted, and they're kind of coddling you more than they did before, and it's frustrating you.
Yeah, definitely.
Reasonably so. So yeah, that's a lot. Your parents definitely must be going through a mixed set of emotions right now as well. And it seems like it has an incredibly large impact on you and your well-being. Have you sat down and had this conversation with your mom, you know, or your dad?
I know. I think it's, again, like it's something that I don't know how to like broach the topic. I don't know how to approach it, and I don't know how to, because I feel like they've done so much for me. So I almost feel like I don't want to like have this be like a slap in their face, where it's like, you know, they've done so much, they've put so much time, and I know that they, again, like I know that they mean well. I know that it's not like coming from like a place of malice, but I think that they don't really realize like the impact that their actions are having on me.
Yeah, and that is very difficult, you know, when you don't feel kind of seen or heard, or you feel like you're just being invalidated because they see you as a child. It definitely is very stressful. And we all need a support system.
Exactly.
So since your parents aren't really being there for you in the way that you need it, who has been your other, you know, outlets?
Yeah, so
this?
I think my sister, like I said, we have a really good relationship there. She's been a really good kind of person to confide in, and just kind of, she also, being my sister, kind of deals with the same parent, so it's easy to relate there. My boyfriend, like I definitely talk to him for a bit about it, and just kind of, you know, talk it out and complain, and like, or when I'm at my like his house, or if I'm at my house, I'm like, okay, I just need to leave. He's like, yeah, come over, like it's fine. And then just like friends, you know, just kind of close friends that I feel like I've just been able to just vent to them, right? Because sometimes that's all you need. You just need like a nice venting session and just get it all out there, and then like that can help, right? So
course, everybody needs to vent to their friends,
Exactly.
you know, that's just human nature.
Mhm.
And, you know, the fact that you're even here right now talking to me about your problems
Mhm.
speaks measures, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, you said that your boyfriend does listen,
Mhm.
and you have talked about the issues with your parents to him before.
Mhm.
How does he react when you kind of go to him and you vent about your parents? Like, has he given you any advice?
Yeah, I guess he's more just there to listen. I think a lot of it is because like, unfortunately, like right now, the reality is like my situation is kind of what it is. So I think it's more
Yeah.
like rather than like trying to find like solutions, it's just nice to be able to like like have somewhere to go, like when like home life gets too much, and he's
Mhm.
very like welcoming for me to his home. And also just like being able to listen to me and being able to just kind of be there for me and kind of support me when things get like a little bit too much.
Okay. So it sounds like you have a very supportive boyfriend from what you're telling me, which is
Mhm.
very good that you have kind of that tight knit, your sister and your
Mhm.
boyfriend.
Mhm.
But in terms of the issues and you feeling kind of unseen and unheard by your parents,
Mhm.
it seems that this is all making you very anxious and
Mhm.
leading to your feelings of anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
Apart from the medication and you working out, what are some of the ways that you do when you start to feel those feelings of anxiety pent up again? You know?
Yeah, I guess maybe like just kind of taking time away. So whether that's like going like for like a quick little trip or even like in like a smaller scale, like it can be like just going to like my boyfriend's house or like going out for like a walk in nature or something like that. I feel like that kind of like just like physically removing myself from that environment can be helpful to just kind of like even if it's for like a little bit of time, like just kind of like feel less suffocated and less stressed.
For sure, for sure. And you need another break. How long have we been talking for? It doesn't even say, does it?
I don't want to touch it because I don't want to like fuck it up. What's the
Timer.
timer?
But then that was including the first one.
Yeah.
36 minutes. How long did we go the first time?
I think it was like
10.
no, I think it was less than 10.
So do you want to just go to the 40 mark?
Yeah, let's go to
Okay.
40.
Okay.
I think that'd be good.
Okay, so I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah,
So
because we don't have to wrap it up, do we?
I don't know. She said that we can, but like there's so much information
Yeah.
here. So we talked about your relationships, your main relationships. We talked about your diagnosis and how that makes you feel. We talked about kind of your physical environment and the things that you do when you do feel anxiety. I just don't know how to branch that out into like, what else do I ask now?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Because like we talked about everything that we can talk about. I don't know, maybe.
Oh, have I asked you if any, like, your attempts and getting rid of your anxiety, have I asked you how successful it's been?
Yeah, because we talked about the meds and I was like, okay, like that
It
was
didn't work, yeah. Should we pull up the case really quickly, just to see if we're good?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to do a lot of
Yeah,
time.
good. I guess we could go back to like the like career wise stuff to kind of like
We didn't talk a lot about your career. We talked a lot about your relationship,
yeah
your depression,
Yeah.
feeling stuck, and we talked about your parents. So maybe we should definitely go back to
like school and career and just kind of like where.
okay, so I'll say let's just trace that. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Victoria. So I feel like we have definitely touched a lot on your family and your relationship with your family and how that has kind of pented up a lot of anxiety and kind of contributed to your feelings of being stuck in depression.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to trace back now to school
Yeah.
and your job. So can you explain to me about your job and the day-to-day activities that you take on in your job, please?
Yeah, so I work at a restaurant. I'm a server there. So right now it's kind of, now that COVID's kind of died down a bit, like mask off, there's no restrictions. It's a lot more busy than it kind of was
Yeah.
beforehand. So it's a lot of, like just like serving duties. So, you're talking to people all day, you're running food all day, you're taking orders. And then there's of course like closing duties and opening duties that I take on. So it's just like that. It keeps me busy, definitely. It's a very easy, not easy, but like it's an environment where I feel like I know what I'm doing because I've been doing it for so long. So I feel comfortable in that role. But it's just not a role that I want to be doing for much longer. I think that it's not where I thought I'd be right now. Same with like living at home. It's not where I thought I'd be. So I think that it's kind of hard to balance that, where it's like I need to make money, I need to have a job, but it's not where I necessarily wish I was.
Okay. So you are comfortable with the job that you have now and because you've been there so long, but you're not really happy,
Yeah,
is what I'm
exactly.
getting. So in terms of that, what are some things you have tried to kind of challenge that situation? Have you applied anywhere else?
Yeah, so I applied to a couple like jobs in like my field of communications that I went to school for. I've had a couple interviews here and there, but just nothing's really panned out. I don't know if that's just like again due to like my lack of experience in the field. I don't know if it's just because like I don't know enough people to like have that network and like those connections that could help me there. I don't know if maybe like my anxiety and depression kind of influence my interviewing, so I'm not able to really like present myself in my best possible light because I have those things that kind of impact that. So I'm not sure why I've had such poor luck in the department of like my career. But yeah, I'm just feeling stuck right now. I'm just feeling like I don't really know where else there is to go, and I don't really know where else there is to turn to. And I thought I'm doing all the right things. You know, you go to college or university and you get a degree, and then you just get a job from there. But I'm just kind of stuck on that job part.
That is a lot, and I'm sensing a lot of kind of you had a lot of expectations and they didn't really come through. And you know, it's incredibly stressful when everybody's so pressured by a timeline. And I can only imagine the frustration and kind of the sadness that you're also feeling because you are not where you expected to be yet.
Exactly.
Now, in terms of your job, and not being where you want to be, how do your parents kind of react to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like they're supportive. I think that they're supportive in the sense of them like understanding that right now, like home is like where I can like live and like be able to like open up their home to me still and still let me live there. So I think they're supportive in that sense. But there's definitely like an undertone there. There's definitely like an undertone of like, oh, but like, you know, when are you moving out? Ha 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 ha. Or like things that are like, I know like it's like they of course like love me and like they are okay with it, but there's like, you know, subtlety there where it's like, okay, but like we all also want our own space. And especially with like my little sister moving out, it's like, oh, okay, like now it's just me that's left.
Yeah, okay. So I keep coming back to this, but the main issue that I'm seeing here is that you feel stuck in your work life, at home, and it's not your fault. I mean, you did get diagnosed with cancer, and that takes a very big toll on people's life, and it kind of just feels like it puts a pause on someone's life as well.
Exactly it.
Okay, so it seems like your cancer diagnosis was a huge obstacle in you kind of moving to where you wanted to be. Are there any other obstacles that have been inhibiting you, kind of from moving forward?
Yeah, I think that the biggest one would just be like the mental health stuff as well. I think that can make it hard to really find like the drive and the desire and what other people might have going for them. I feel like that kind of inhibits me a little bit, especially in terms of like career growth and career wise, where it's like, I wish I had like the energy to be able to like go to all these networking events and all these things, but sometimes like mental health, I just can't.
Okay, so I know that we kind of briefly touched on your depression and how that kind of affects your day-to-day life, but it's also sounding like there are, oh, I can't do this, I'm a social worker. Okay, let's take one more pause and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, so how should I wrap this up? Because there's a lot of information that was given in this entirety, so.
I mean, you can always wrap it up being like, did you find this session helpful? Like, did you want to book again? Like that kind of a wrap up where it's like, okay, like, here's a summary.
But then don't have to paraphrase, like summarize before I wrap up.
Oh yeah, true. You could just hit on like main things like mental health.
Okay, oh, let's do that, okay.
Cancer, feeling stuck, depression.
Okay.
These are the things I've heard.
Okay, Victoria, so again, I just want to thank you for sharing all of this information with me. I know that it hasn't been easy, and I know that it's sitting here right now and sharing this incredibly personal information is not easy either. So thank you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.
I'm just gonna summarize just to see if I got everything right here, but from this session, we did talk about you feeling stuck in your job because it's not where you want to be. you feel like you are capable of much more because you went to school, you paid for a degree, you got that degree. All right, so that was one of the main factors. We also talked about how living at home is kind of inhibiting you from being the grown woman that you are, right? And your parents kind of coddle you and maybe don't treat you like the adult that you are,
Yeah.
which has also been leading to stress and frustration, reasonably so. We also touched on your relationship with your boyfriend, and it seems like you guys have a decent relationship, but you guys fight like every other relationship. But you said that he is a good listener and that you do talk to him about these issues.
Yeah.
And as well as your sister too. So it
Yeah.
sounds like you do have a pretty stable support system as well. But some of the strengths that I observed here from you is that you are in remission, right? And it hasn't been easy, and you have still found your way to go out and exercise, which is incredible. I don't even exercise. And you still go to work every day. You're comfortable in your job. You just don't feel like it is recognizing your full potential.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I got from the session today. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to what I just said?
No, I think you got it all.
Perfect. So I guess that's all the time that we have for today, but I want to thank you again for coming in, and I was wondering if you're interested in setting up another appointment.
Yeah, for sure. It's been really, really helpful.
Perfect. Well, I look forward to seeing you again, Victoria.
Awesome. Thank you so
Have a
much.
great day. Oh my God. How do I save this?
So just hit like the stop. Yeah, stop